Everybody in India today has a phone, and without that there is no life.
Telecom today is the nervous system of banking, health, education.
From 10 kbps, we are now on India level, we are at 10 mbps per customer connectivity.
I'll structure it like this, that, so 2 minutes each of any opening remarks from each of the panelists, and then I'll ask some pointed questions after that. So I'll start in that order, starting with you, Bharat. Any opening remarks for 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll do a round of questions.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks for giving me the first opportunity to start this session. I think everybody here is aware of the gigantic steps that India has taken in going from 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G. Today, we have the fastest rollout of 5G network in India, with over 500,000 base stations. I don't think any other country in the world can boast of that. We have number of new innovations. Everybody in India today has a phone, and without that there is no life. Billion plus users. The UPI has changed the life of India. Every hawker, every small businessman, everybody has access to a payment gateway that he can pay even 1 rupee to a Kirana shop. Those things have all been enabled by the 4G and 5G technology that has been brought here by the work of experts who worked many hours in the development of those standards which make it ubiquitous, which make it standard, which make it interchangeable, so you can go to any country today, you're still connected. The role of standards and the spectrum, those are the two areas which really drive all of this what you see today, whether it's convergence, whether it's broadcasting, whether it is satellite, whether it is mobile phone. Everything is based on those two buzzwords, spectrum and standards. And when we work in the ITU, the International Telecommunication Union, where we develop these standards, we have spent almost 24 hours in a day at the World Radio conferences to come to an agreement on the spectrum. It is not an easy task. The whole world has to be aligned together. Every WRC, which is 10 weeks or 12 weeks long, we have to work almost 24 hours. I remember 2 years back in Dubai, 3 years back in Dubai, when we were trying to develop the 6G, 6 gigahertz spectrum roadmap. We finished at 4 a.m. and we were back again at 8 a.m. in the conference room.
Wonderful.
It has to be a very dedicated effort. So we've done great in implementation, but I think if we have to take a lead in the 6G, we need to up our ante, we need to up our game to take a leadership position. We are great in terms of the rollout of the system, rollout of the services, but in terms of the technology leadership, I think we still have a miles to go. And we need to make sure that in the 6G, we at least, and the government has set up a target of 10% of standard essential patents. I know it's a very difficult subject and it's not easy to come, but I think if we don't achieve that, we will be way behind. So local manufacturing, local technology development will come if we can develop a lot of startups who can develop patents, who can develop technologies. So that's where I am. So thank you very much.
Wonderful, Bharat. I'll move on to Puneet Garg next, because you see in my mind, all of us are in the advocacy, policy, research space, but implementation is the key, absolutely the key. And nobody better than Jio, who has done probably the greatest and the fastest rollout of 4G and 5G. So, and I'll come to Mr. Upadhyay after that. Puneet, what is your sense that the current investment models of AI and 6G and quantum and other deep tech innovation, so are we going to be just adopters of all of this, or we are going to be, going to have giant networks with the same standards as you put up 5G and 4G networks?
Thanks, Pankaj. It's a brilliant question, first of all. And let me start from where Mr. Bharat left. I strongly believe India is poised to become the world leader in innovation. And why I am saying so? Because we have rolled out the fastest 5G network in the country. Second thing is basically digital innovation and digital economy, with which the smallest person in the country started having earnings in his bank started happening. So these are the two major intervention which happened in our country, which is giving a scope that innovation and the scale of rollout can happen based on these two things. So if I see, like in Geo, we strongly believe that network is become a nervous system of the connectivity. In terms of, we are connecting people, we are connecting homes, we are connecting AI, we are connecting everything which is happening around us. And with the amalgamation of AI, 6G and quantum, what we are going to see is basically the connectivity will become intelligent. And why so? Because 5G, which we have rolled out in 18 months, which have never been done anywhere in the world, with 500 million of the customers are started consuming the data. And the data drive is still happening, and more customers are consuming more and more data. Whatever we are giving, customers are there, they are consuming. And in the morning when we were discussing with Pankaj, our belief and our seeing is like states like Bihar is consuming the maximum data in our country. The universities are the place where the data consumption is highest among the users. So there is a demand, there is a need. 6G is going to fulfill that demand to a larger extent. How it's going to happen is basically we need to come together and put together the framework in which the connectivity will become intelligent. It is secured by quantum technologies, the cryptographic work, etc., etc. And all these things together will be giving customer a real value for connectivity and the intelligence, which is we are going to promise him for all the services which are immersive in nature based on AI. So that is my points, Pankaj.
Puneet, get ready for a follow-up question from me. So on quantum, that when does that become a reality in the networks? But back to Upadhyay ji, you see my sequence is like that: global standard spectrum implementation, now Indian R&D, which Mr. Upadhyay is leading with at CDOT. Upadhyay ji, what about indigenization? Puneet and Bharat alluded to India having center stage in innovation and supply chain, manufacturing, etc. Can you throw some light on that? Are we really doing something tangible in that area in 6G and AI and quantum?
Thank you, Pankaj ji. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers with coming up with such an important topic, 6G, AI and quantum. All three of these are emerging technologies. And I will, what Bharat said, two things: fastest rollout and technology leadership. While we did fastest rollout, but for the consumers it was very good. But in terms of value appropriation for the country, I think everything we imported. We imported everything, we executed it. The second point he touched about technological leadership because telecom today is the nervous system of banking, health, education, you name power, name any sector. This is the nervous system of the, and therefore, given the geopolitical issues, given the supply chain issues, given the wars which are happening, I think it is very important for us to have our own technology. Now, we were left behind earlier in 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. 4G, 5G, we did. In fact, we were told to do 4G when word has gone to 5G. We started developing 4G because we needed sovereignty in the technology, and therefore it was developed in a short time. It is today deployed in BSNL. Now, Government of India is now 6G, AI, quantum are open field where India can actually take the lead. For 6G, as Bharat ji said, Bharat 6G vision was launched by Honorable Prime Minister, where we said that we will have 10% of IPR. We have India AI mission. We have semiconductor mission. We have quantum mission. This time, government is doing in a very, very structured way. So all these technologies are the open field. Earlier, what we did, as I said, we developed 4G when people were talking about 6G. So in these places, we have the chance to emerge as a global supplier of this technology. And I'm happy to report that in BSNL, the indigenous 4G, 5G technology is already working. Quantum, we have, as CDOT, we have supplied quantum systems to various universities, strategic agencies. In AI, even though it might create problem for the software engineering in some part, but it presents India as a opportunity to develop applications around AI. So I am very happy that government is taking enough care, enough directions, enough policies so that we move in this field. In terms of, as Bharatji said, standardization. No standardization can take place without R&D. Without R&D, you can't get into a standard body. So for R&D, government has done wonderful job. We have, in telecom itself, we have a TTDF, Telecom Technology Development Fund of 1,000 crore. Government has recently launched RDI, Research and Development Innovation Fund, 1 lakh crore. We have ANRF, we have India AI mission, we have semiconductor chip mission. So I feel that if all of this works together, and the main ingredient what is required for all the money many countries may have, the main ingredient which is required to execute this is the talent. And there is no doubt the whole world knows the talent is in India. Even the foreign companies like chips, I say, 1 lakh design engineers are in India today. 1 lakh engineers working for Intel, AMD, Qualcomm, Broadcom. So if through India AI mission, now the DLI technology, DLI is coming from MIT, where we are funding for the chips. So India will not only do the product, it will do the chips, it will do the application, so that we are self-sufficient. And going forward, we should not remain the consumer of the technology. We should become one of the important partner in developing and supplying this technology to the world. And government is actually taking lead in this.
You always get very motivated after listening to Mr. Upadhyay. And these are not just, forward-looking statements. They're actually what is happening on the ground. Anil, you have deployed very large networks. So my specific question to you is that do you think we'll have to rethink the entire telecom network infrastructure, architecture with 6G and quantum and AI?
Thank you, Pankaj. Firstly, I think I must compliment Convergence for having organized this session, and a session on the 3 emerging technologies of 6G, AI, and quantum. While AI, to an extent, is becoming all pervasive, a fair amount of development and things like that has happened on the AI, but as far as 6G and quantum are concerned, I think they are still in the research stage and likely to be deployed by maybe the 2030s, or quantum maybe even beyond that. so the 6G would really, so far it has been a 5G, it'll become a, you'll get the intelligence into the 6G, there would be certain changes in the architecture. The points that we'll have to look at is, especially since 6G is likely to be in the higher spectrum bands, how you would be able to do it as a ubiquitous, will it be a ubiquitous deployment, or would it be select solution based or area based? Somehow what I've seen is all these technologies, when they initially came up, they said no, 4G will also be in limited areas, 5G will also be in limited areas. But I find eventually, at least in a country like India, maybe Europe, etc., may not have so much of extensive deployment of 5G or 4G, but like India has virtually covered all the districts with 5G. Similar would eventually become in 6G, but I think 6G in the initial stages is likely to be more, would not be so ubiquitous, because to be able to cover it's likely to be in the higher 7 gigahertz band, 7 to 10 gigahertz band, or even terahertz band. So it is unlikely that it will be a ubiquitous this thing. It would more be maybe mission specific, area specific, or certain areas where 6G would eventually get deployed. And as we see the standards developing sometime around 27, 28, and the actual deployment of the networks coming up in 2030, that is how I feel it will get deployed.
Wonderful. Brigadier Soin, regarding the growing deep tech startup ecosystem, we hear a lot about this, that, and we also experience it, that there is a growing startup ecosystem. Do you think we have the funding and institutional support required? And my second question related to this is, do you think we have enough, what Mr. Upadhyay said, that 1 lakh engineers for design, do we have enough entrepreneurs though, and the environment to stitch their entrepreneurship together with proper funding and technology?
Thank you for this. Firstly, I'm glad to be here on this crystal grazing as of now of what is going to come up in the field of communications, which is ever evolving. Before I answer what you just said, I'd just like to present what is coming up. So what is happening is there will be, like Brigadier Tandan just pointed out, there will be a densification of networks for specific usage in the 6G domain. And there's going to be, basically, the intelligence will get linked and the edges would become important. So these are the three primary things which will happen in the infrastructure part and the services part of the communications. For that, you would need lots of investments, the point that you highlighted, and the learnings from what 5G has gone. We have all been talking of fastest rollout, but the exploitation of 5G and the various kind of regulatory pieces which need to be addressed, because they are going to get magnified in the 6G era. Things like slicing, things like the ICNIP norms. So there are various things which are under consideration which need to be addressed so that you are able to do this transition and reach a place where you want to. As far as skilling is concerned, it is a very important thing, because we need to focus on the right kind of skills to be able to exploit this in the domain of platforms and services and applications as and when this ecosystem reaches the consumer. So these are the short pieces that I can think of straight away.
Wonderful. Bharat, I'll just get back to you on two very important things. you see, you are an expert in the standardization and spectrum and so on. But the global standardization, right? The ecosystem, ITU, 3GPP, ITSI, etc. Is it congruous with the Indian patent laws? Because what China was able to do, and this is a much deeper question now, but nobody better than you to answer it. What China was able to do and get a headroom for its domestic companies, do you think there is a possibility that we'll be there, or we'll get submerged in the crossfire?
I think that's a very good question. Actually, it directly connects with the kind of work that we are doing. See, the standards are developed in 3GPP and in the ITU. Those are two global bodies at UT. And every meeting that I go to, and I go to almost every month to an ITU meeting, the participation of the Indian delegation versus the Chinese delegation is 1:100. And they have been doing it for last 15, 20 years. For us to reach that level, I think we have to up our game, as I mentioned. They are able to send very high-level delegations to these meetings and every meeting, while our participation, both at the government level as well as the industry level. One body that I work which develops the 6G standards is called Working Party 5D. And that is the official body of the UN ITU that will develop and approve the 6G standard. In that meeting, till 2 years back, we had no leadership position. So we started working with them, we started working with the government, and today finally we have some leadership position in that body. So we are trying to penetrate. Today in the 5D, the top 3 leadership positions are between China, India, and Europe and USA. So we have a position now. But we need to be much more proactive, and I think the problem is that Government of India thinks that people who go to those meetings are mainly going for enjoyment. What they don't understand is the kind of negotiations that happen there. You have to be on your toes 24 hours to really get into those standards. Now, let me talk about spectrum, because I think the success of 6G is going to depend on the spectrum. This is an area where we have taken, as India, a leadership position. All estimates indicate that we need about 1500 to 2 gigahertz of contiguous spectrum for real 6G rollout. Remember, our 2G rollout was on 4 megahertz. At that point of time, all the world was allocating 20 megahertz to every operator. India started with 4.4 megahertz. For 6G, we are talking of 400 megahertz per operator. Whereas, unless we get the 6 to 8 gigahertz band, which is the 2 gigahertz golden band as we call for 6G, we are not going to go anywhere again. So we have provided services as rightly mentioned, but I think spectrum is key, and our participation in the global 3GPP as well as in the ITU, I think we need to go 10x times where we are today.
Wonderful. Puneet, my next question is, I heard in 2005 a lot of dramatic use cases. Then I heard the same thing in 2015, that we'll have robotic surgery and all of that. What we promised as the used cases 10 years back, how much of it has become a reality? And this generation thing is, a certain section of media and policymakers accuse the industry of, ये just evergreening है, ये कुछ थोड़ा सा speed बढ़ता है उसका. None of those use cases have happened, because all of what has happened is because of the digital public infrastructure. Of course, you guys have done a great job in the rollouts, but what about the use cases? Should the future planning be done based on what are the real tangible use cases, and we work backwards on that?
So Pankaj, you touched upon a very brilliant topic, and technology, if you see, it starts from here. You're not able to have a cohesive microphones with which we can communicate. I think you have touched upon brilliantly. Let me start from 95 instead of 2005. In 95, VSNL brought, VSNL, not the Victory SNL, brought in country the 9.6 kbps internet connectivity. And I was the lucky one to have one of that connectivity in my office. From 9.6 kbps, where we used to do the dial-up and used to do that word star type of communication, from that point we have come down to a place where everything has become digitalized, and on an average from 10 kbps we are now on Indian level, we are at 10 mbps per customer connectivity. So you are right, from a connectivity perspective it is available to all, and it has increased many-fold. From simple word star, now we move to content. The content is digitally available on each phone, on each home, and all the industries which are now connected on pipes are becoming digital. And particularly if I take the example of AI to amalgamate the discussion what you're having, in that what started happening is now, at least in our part of the world in Geo, we started moving towards the automation or autonomous ecosystem. Meaning to say, like now, if I need to upgrade my routers or I need to upgrade my base stations, I do it through AI. Earlier, we used to take almost half a year to upgrade these devices on a run, because there are many. Now with AI and autonomous system, we are able to do it in few hours. From immersive application perspective, those are started shaping phase, and those are started again rolling it out. Customers started seeing on touch of a button what they can do. IoT is giving them all the smart homes, and we have many use cases which we have implemented across India, where the customers with a touch of button, when they travel from office back to home, they are able to switch their air conditioning on, they are able to do their fans on, etc., etc. So those kind of use cases, Pankaj, started happening. But you touched upon two other important use cases like remote diagnostic. That is started happening, but remote surgery is still a distant stream. Why? Because latency is playing a very important role in surgery. Just think about it: if a customer or a doctor is sitting in US and he is operating a customer in India, the latency from here to US is more than 400 milliseconds. By the time he gives instruction and somebody gets operated here, he may go to the heaven. So 6G is a kind of thing which is going to build this thing together, where the latency will become lesser than a few milliseconds, and these kind of use cases, which are good to speak, may become realistic. So that is what my point of view.
Wonderful. Upadhyay ji, particularly on latency and technology, we have seen that defense and strategic electronics, sometimes because of the generous funding, becomes the leader in innovation in electronics and all of this. Do you think India will follow that route, or we will be more civilian-led innovation, and particularly things like latency, because now the whole strategic electronics things are also completely different. What we have seen now in terms of the balance of power and so on. Do you think we will also follow that route, or partially follow that route?
No, defense is a specific segment. Their requirements are very different. Even the components what we use for defense systems are mill grade, whereas what we deploy in the carrier grade are not mill grade. So these are two different segments. And defense takes its own requirement. In fact, we do work, Bell does work, many other startups do work for defense. So defense is a very specific requirement which is met by the ecosystem currently. And as you know, the strategic capability has to be developed, and we saw during Sindoor how our startup ecosystem actually helped in terms of deploying some of these technologies. So as far as the civilian side is concerned, this is a large market, and defense technologies, what we produce, we may not export all of them. But the carrier technologies, what we develop today, can be exported to the world. Just to give an idea, in 6G, of course, it has been a little bit slow, but we funded last year 120 projects of 271 crore, and this year it will be much more. India AI mission is 11,000 crore. India semiconductor mission is around 76,000 crore. Government of India is well aware that the data explosion which is happening across India, be it rural, he talked about Bihar being the largest consumer of the data. Government is well aware of that, and government has initiated BharatNet phase 3 to deploy optical fiber across the country, not leaving even a single village. That program, just to give the number, is 1,39,000 crore. It is already under execution right now in various states. So from the consumption side, the government has taken care of the infrastructure. The tower fiberization. Today, we have just 40% of the towers fiberized. Even if the 5G, 6G can give you speed, if you don't have fiber, you can't do. So there is a lot of work happening on the tower fiberization. In the AI, I'll give you one example how I think Garg Saab talked about how do you improve network efficiency, autonomous healing. Today AI is being used for network optimization. What we have been using AI also for the cyber fraud. I don't know how many of you have used the portal Sanchar Sathi. It's a Government of India website, sancharsati.gov.in. You will be surprised. Being a government site, people will say, oh, there won't be any hits. There are 25 crore hits on this website, 25 crore. There are 20 million downloads of this app. Today we have disconnected 50 million connections using AI, 50 million fraudulent connections. That is why the number of calls what you used to receive locally for fraud reduced. Then these guys went abroad, putting the spoofed call. Then we developed a spoof call detector that could block all calls coming from abroad with Indian numbers. But these guys are also smart. You may be receiving nowadays SMS.
Upadhyay, I just move on to a more specific subject.
Yeah.
Which is about indigenization. It's a follow-up question for you. Without having any operating system of our own, whether it is on smartphones or IT or industrial or home automation, do you think there can be any worthwhile indigenization? Because the operating system is the key to everything.
I think you are very right.
And I think you spelled out, आपने पुलिंदे बिछाए हैं कि क्या क्या किया है, but जो क्या क्या नहीं हुआ, what in your mind is the most critical? I could identify operating system as one.
No, I'll just give example. You touched about defense. Defense today uses not Android, not this. They use indigenized operating system. Now there is work going on in the country for developing desktop operating system. You are very right, because if you are continue to operate on Android and this, there are a lot of vulnerabilities that can be exploited.
All our industrial machines are on operating systems from a neighboring country. All our home automation systems, including our air conditioners, are on operating systems not from friendly countries, so to say.
Now I can just give you example. One of our product, what we have, is called Prime, which is a hardened device, hardened OS, which we supply. Today, that is our own OS. I'm not saying that we would have built the OS from the scratch, but we took some base kernel, worked upon it, put the security, removed all extra features, and put it. That is working on the mobile. But now there is a project already going on with the consortia, not alone. There are 5-6 good agencies in the country which are working together to develop this OS. So we have to come from somewhere to somewhere. I said earlier, 1G was first floor, 2G was second floor, 3G was third floor. We were not there. We created fourth floor and fifth floor. 4G, 5G we have created. It's very easy for us to go to sixth floor. And same thing is happening in the OS also. IoT, for example, one of the recommendation of in the ITU Y.3056, if I remember correctly, is done in India. You know, how do you boot the IoT system so that it is recognized as secure? So a lot of work is happening. Some may be in the public domain, some may not be in the public domain. But India is definitely moving ahead in terms of developing each part of the technology, because there is a large canvas. We have to first exploit the low-hanging fruits, and then we have to move on to the higher dimension like the operating system.
So I think what the two brigadiers, you know, any closing remarks, because I think we'll leave some time for the questions from the audience. We have 9 minutes, so maybe a minute or two each from both of you. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I want to come back to the 6G part of it and the use cases which you brought out. And you see, 5G, all the operators have not been able to really monetize all that they've spent on it. 6G is being forced. A lot of operators, there's another view by the operators, I'm not saying in India but abroad also, that maybe the Ericssons and the Nokias come up with a newer technology and are pushing it, because once 5G has been, for the next 5 years, these companies have got nothing to sell really. 4G is launched, 5G is launched. So they would come up with newer technologies. The need for a use case before 6G is launched is very important. And I think it will come. I'm not saying that it will not come, but it is important that these such use cases are built up, and otherwise the operators would not be able to make the huge capex investment that they've already done in 5G, and to expect them to redo it in 6G. The other point is, I think what has stood out, if I was to see, and that is supporting what Dr. Upadhyay said, in the last few years, what I've seen is the government does have a great interest and a push towards indigenous R&D work. I mean, all the schemes that he listed out that have been created there, and every scheme has got so much of money, and I've got a list of other schemes which I'm not reading out. But there's a huge amount of money today available with which is being made available by the government, whether it is Ministry METI, whether it is DOT, or whether it is Science and Technology. All of them are making a lot of money available. It is now how both the private sector and the public sector and the academia try and capitalize on that and really make, number one, firstly the 6G mission of 10% SCPs, that we must get 10% of that for the 6G. Similarly for the quantum and on the AI part of it. It is now for maybe the startups, the incubation centers in the IIT, like IIT Chennai and all that.
Wonderful. Yeah.
How they would be able to do that. So that is what I think, these are the two important things.
Brigadier Soin, any closing remarks?
I would just like to highlight, taking off from what Brigadier Tandan has said, we need to realize that infrastructure and services need investments. Investments are only if an investment has been made in a technology, and there are, like I mentioned earlier, interjections required to address basic regulatory issues. Like, for example, I had highlighted about the slicing, which is important for the platforms to play a part at the edges. The monetization doesn't happen. Your returns on investment doesn't happen. Then the kind of fiberization and the densification of infrastructure, that again, you need the ICNIC norms to be what is there in the world, being used anywhere in the world. Also, we have recently seen the incentivization of the data center at the edges by the government. You need to do the same for the people who are actually providing the communications between them. The kind of levies and the taxes which are on the infrastructure providers need to be relooked at granularly.
Absolutely. So, 30 seconds, Bharat, Upadhyay ji and Puneet, for any closing remarks, and then we go to the audience for any questions.
No, I think my closing remark is very clear based on what we are seeing around the world today. 6G is a big opportunity for India, and we must encash it. For that, first, I think the government is right on track to talk about 10% of the IPRs. I think patents are very, very important. Second, continue our leadership in the spectrum that we have done so far, and I think we need to continue to do that. And third, increase our participation in the standards bodies, both 3GPP and ITU. I think my messages are still those only, and we can achieve that. Thank you.
Upadhyay ji?
I will only say that all three, 6G, AI and quantum, are emerging field, and it's a open field for us to capitalize on. I'll just touch upon under quantum mission, without much of difficulty, we funded 6 startups, 25 crore each, which was unheard of earlier. 25 crore each grant to 6 startups. I'm just giving, but like this, many are happening. So today, government has very clear vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, that we need to become Atmanirbhar, and slowly it is working. Some results are being seen, some will be seen. These 3 are open field, and we have very good chance to attain a leadership position to be supplier of these technologies to the world.
Thank you, Upadhyay ji. My 2 seconds thing, I believe because the topic is all the next generation technologies, my thinking is the marriage of AI, which is brain, and quantum, which is basically the muscles, is inevitable. It is going to happen. Market will determine it. As I said, demand is there. We need to fulfill that demand. And it is the onus is not only on the government, but is the entire ecosystem, which is government, the private operators like us, the industries need to come together to create this new world where the intelligence speaks about from a connectivity perspective, which is self-healing. We should be self-optimizing, and whenever is required, can be given to customer.
Wonderful.
So this is my
I think this AI is the brain and quantum is the muscle, you see, but this muscle needs a very, very exacting environment to operate in. So that is a unique thing about it.
May I request all of you to please put your hands together as I present a memento to each of our speakers and our moderators. We'll also put a group photograph element together, and a big thank you to all my delegates to make sure that we had those audience questions coming. I think this is what makes every segment all the more interesting. We are not here just to say what's on our mind, but here to discuss as to what's really happening, and it can't be if it wasn't for the dialogue that all of you bring. So I'd like to encourage all of you to ask more questions, share your thoughts. In every panel discussion, we're trying to keep about 7 to 10 minutes for our audience questions. This is the time that we can actually interact with our leaders, get to know a lot more, and also share our thoughts. I'd also like to request all of you to please continue with your presence as we're about to kickstart with our next session as well. Mr. Sharma presenting a plaque of honor and a memento to each of our esteemed speakers, and of course to our moderator as well. Thank you so very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts there with us. It's been an absolute delight. Thank you so very much. Brigadier Anil Tandan, honoring you with the plaque. A round of applause from my audience. And a big thank you to our moderator. Thank you so much, Mr. Pankaj Mohindroo, for joining us and for making sure that you weave together this inaugural session so beautifully. A round of applause from my audience will be much appreciated. In fact, may I welcome all of you to please be a part of a group photograph along with Mr. Sanjay Sharma. Please do join in, all our dignitaries, our esteemed speakers. Please. We will be kick-starting with our next session in just a bit. My team will also be setting the stage up for the same.